Hello everyone, welcome back. This is almost the usual stream for writing a programming language. As people might notice, a little bit of an update from the usual stream. So just been spending a little bit of time getting the layouts and things updated. I've been playing around with my development environment and bits like that. And in fact, details of that. In fact, now that I think of it, I need to add more details on that to the stream elements setup that I have here. So I've just got a few commands uploaded here at the moment, but I'll be adding to that with details of the, say, hardware environment, software environment that I'm using for these streams. But for the most part, I just wanted to get stuck in, and I guess it's one of those things that's never quite finished. So I said I'd go ahead and just get stuck in. And so, as again, people who might have been watching the stream recently have noticed that the seed language that I've been working on for the past, I suppose it's been over a year or so, maybe close to 2 at this point, wrapped up in the last couple of sessions. And so the time has come to finally move on to the next phase, which is the Ash language, which is essentially what the seed language was working towards. So seed is primarily a research-based language for playing around with different language ideas. It really has, I would say, most of the almost default syntaxes and structures that we're used to from a lot of modern and mainstream languages. So, for example, C and or Go and Rust style syntax, particularly for, say, conditionals and loops. Things like, I suppose, object destructuring and things like that you'd be used to from JavaScript, string interpolation. All the, I would say, basics and fairly, I would say, not necessarily universal, but quite ubiquitous features in general. And so now we're moving into Ash, which is intended to be a language that's mostly to be used as an alternative to Bash scripting. Now I say Bash, it basically applies to most kind of scripting. So alternative to Fish, alternative to ZSH language and things like that. I would say a lot of them are fairly similar. Now, I also haven't done enough research into them to verify that. So maybe there are things that I'm overlooking, but it's one of those areas as well. Again, you can spend all your time researching the alternatives and never actually come up with any viable solutions. Now, we do run the risk of that old XKCD comic where, the problem is you have 15 standards. This is ridiculous. We need to make one that just captures everything. And then you end up with 16 competing standards. So there is a risk of that. But at the same time, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we might as well give it a shot and see if the language that I'm putting into effect here does start helping to, I guess, not necessarily solve the problem, but work towards a solution of general glue scripts and programs that aren't really general purpose in and of themselves, but are rather used in mostly DevOps scenarios to glue different components together. So I have the seed project locally. So what I'm going to do to get started is just clone seed and rename it to Ash. So that's where we're going to be working from for I would say the majority of this stream in general. So I guess something that we're going to want to do is, just do a grep really of the entire project and see where we reference seed in general. And we'll also want, for some reason that didn't seem to do it recursively. I wonder why that is. And I wonder, is there an easy way of putting that into the quick find window? Now I know I have grep set up here. In fact, let's see. Oh, now that I mention it, I have not actually installed ripgrep. Is that, I think, AG? But that's fine for the moment. We'll just do it the manual way. And all of these license files are going to need to get reverted to 2025. Well, not necessarily reverted, because they'll be the initialization. And now that I think of it, I guess not a lot of files will contain the word seed, especially because it's not really referenced throughout the project. And even in the files themselves, they will be .sd files. Yeah, so that'll probably be more relevant. But let's see if we have SD, and I prefer when prefixes are 2 characters. Yeah, I guess we'll just call it Ash for the moment. Again, we can always change that later if we feel like it. And in fact, we'll go ahead and remove the Git directory. And that's probably close to everything we need to do. Just need to update the README in particular. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that the C style syntax and semantics that we have are necessarily the best that is available, but they are the majority. And there is benefits to that. I mean, I've been interested myself in learning lots of different niche and non-niche languages. So even just dipping my toes into different functional programming languages in the past, such as Haskell. I played around with APL before, Idris, Scala, OCaml. And again, a lot of those are, I guess, playing around in the domain of languages, seeing what is possible, what isn't possible. You also have, I think, is it extreme postfix notation or reverse Polish notation? I can never remember. It's been so long since I looked at these kind of things, but the likes of fourth and factor, for example. And there is a benefit to conforming. You know, it's not something that I really like. It's not something that I would typically aspire towards, but there is definitely a value in it, and especially in the realms of programming where we're so often building things on the basis of what has come before. So we're using languages that other people have built, operating systems, tools. I mean, there's so many things that we're all building off each other. And yeah, sometimes conforming can actually just give you a huge boost because it's another thing that you don't have to learn. I mean, I guess as programmers, we're so used to just having to learn so many different things, having to keep up to date with all the latest advancements. And like I say, conforming, standardization, all these kind of things can have huge benefits. And whereas in the past I would have been so eager to come up with my own syntax, play around with, you know, how can I phrase things in a different way. And there is value in that, definitely. I mean, those kind of things can push you to think about the same problem but in a different way. And that can be very useful for a number of reasons. But in terms of actually being productive at the end of the day, getting things done, I think, yeah, standards conforming to what the majority is doing can often give a lot of benefits. That doesn't mean that I always do that, but in the case of a language in particular, I think this would be a big strength. And probably going to keep most of the similar goals, non-goals, and trade-offs the same as previously, because that's kind of what Seed was designed with in mind as well. So maintainability over performance, general case over edge cases, high-level composition and delegation over low-level processing. And this is kind of one of the key ones as well, because again, this is intended to be a largely glue-based language. And that might be worth documenting as well. For some reason, I'm noticing a lot of lag with my input. I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. Whether it's coming because I'm actually using a new server at the moment, and I am using a new NeoVim setup that I had been using for a while on another environment, but maybe something happened in the transition. I'm not quite sure, but I am noticing that. I wonder if I'll have to take a look at that at some point. And that's, I would say, basically it. So there are some copyright files that still need to be bumped, but seed has basically been renamed throughout the project. So let's go ahead and kick the building of the environment off. In the meantime, we'll try and see where that last bit of copyright needs to be bumped. So the license file, which actually should be bumped in my other project as well, in seed itself. So doc is now open, and we're just going to do a cargo build. And yeah, because this is the first build as well, that's going to take a little bit of time. In the meantime, let's open up a section down here. Oh, for some reason my keylogger isn't actually, not sure why that wasn't working, but it wasn't. So let's take a look. We'll go ahead and just add all of these. I don't think there's anything special here that I should rename or anything like that, or ignore. So and let's just double check. Yeah, cargo lock. Oh, one last thing I almost forgot is the version. So we are now going to be on version, I guess it'll be 1.0. So that is that. And in fact, we'll need to amend that. Oh, you can do that in NeoVim. You can just make the bar take up, I guess down here we'll go the status, so you can have a big load of status area. Interesting. So that is that. And so what is going to be the first feature that we work on? Well, I think that I'm going to do error handling, if that's not too big of a, I guess, risk to take on. In terms of, well, just something too meaty for the first session, but it should be fine. So the way that errors are going to work now, it was implemented previously in, I guess, the predecessor to Seed, which was called Norpal for not a real programming language. And I should really check that as a reference, but for the moment, let's just wing it. it's not imperative that we finish it today, especially because I'm not intending to be streaming for too long today. I really just wanted to get the first stream done and, you know, take off the plaster, because like I said, with any of these kind of things where you're setting up a new environment, getting ready for a new project, it's easy to just keep adding to it. And so today I was like, no, I need to just do the first stream. What's there is fine, and anything that I want to improve on it, I can do as I go along, because the majority of the bits are in place now. So I don't think I have ENTR installed here actually. Oh, I do. So let's see. In fact, I can't remember what I use for actually triggering ENTR. What my command line was. Maybe I will find it in one of my text files. No, it's not around there. So what was this? So clear the screen anyway. And utility, I wanted to do, I guess, bash c cargo test. Well, it would have to be in doc run in build environment, and that would do what? I think just check. And I think the reason that doesn't have color is because Docker isn't allocating a pseudo terminal, so we'll add that with -t onto doc. So yeah, that seems to work for us at the moment at least. Oh, what I used to is, I think another thing would be I would -grep, or I would invert grep so that it doesn't look for dot files. Now, I'm actually, or in particular swap files. Now, I actually don't know what NeoVim uses for swap files instead. So maybe I won't need that. Perfect. So we need to add a new terminal for the parser so that it can actually scan question marks. It's done a reverse sort. Oh, now it's sorting. Okay, before it used, for whatever reason, actually sort by the, I think it used to actually skip the symbols and just sort by the characters over here. Whereas now, maybe it's actually sorting them by kind of ASCII code. Possibly, I'm not sure. But that should be fine. Oh, I want that to persist. So what I'm going to do for the moment is jump into the config for NeoVim. And I guess I will just copy one of these. And does that work? No. Why doesn't my FT after get recognized? I guess I'll leave it for the moment and maybe look at resolving that in between sessions, but for the moment it's fine. And that'll need a conversion in main as well. Oops. Is this a new issue? Oh, I think what I did before is, yeah, so we can't actually match things after an expression because Lallerpop is an LR1 parser. Now, in this case, I just forgot the fact that I had set this up. Oh, this is problematic, potentially. Although, where do we have the matching for bang or for exclamation? Oh, maybe I don't have not implemented. Yep, I don't. So that's problematic, first of all, because that needs to be implemented. So let's see. So we'll start with that. Now we have a problem with matching question mark for some reason. Now, that is strange because it doesn't exist already, so there shouldn't be ambiguities. So let's take a look at the actual error that we're getting here. Now, the problem is that there is so much error output that it can make things a bit awkward. Well, I guess what we can do for the moment is comment out a portion of logic. Let's try commenting these out. So that we might have an example. So let's see, a local ambiguity was detected. If we have question mark followed by it's a little too much abstraction here. So we have an expression tier for abstracting over and simplifying our expressions based on precedence levels, but that makes things a little difficult to read. Okay, at expression precedence 5, maybe it's because I'm making a call to expression precedence 6. Or sorry, because I'm making a call to expression precedence 1. And the issue is that if we have, for example, question mark followed by one of those followed by an expression, followed by one of those operators, followed by expression precedence 5, and then an argument list. The parser could shift that parameter item okay, so that question mark could be applied to this section or the entire expression. And so we would actually have the same issue. So it's a question of binding, I believe, and making sure that we have the loosest binding on the entire expression. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at how I actually solved that in the past. So we'll go to, I guess it was the branch with tests. And this code was a lot messier, but at least it's all there. So if we take a look at ladder pop, I guess, and we have it as expression 1. Oh, and we do actually use it as a suffix, which is interesting. Okay, yeah, and it says it above it that it defines the loosest binding. So maybe if I define it like that. That's very interesting. Oh, yeah, and so that's just a result of not having. So that is one thing that I forgot I would have to update is in the tests. I would have to rename all of the runtime errors, I believe. Yeah, the error files are the only ones that would be affected by this. So let's try that. I feel like the compiler, the Rust compiler, is actually working faster than before, whether that's due to the updates with Lallerpop, Rust, or even just the environment I'm using. But yeah, it's funny that the input is lagging. So some parts of this new environment are taking a bit longer, but then lots of the rest is working better. So Lex errors, I think, is just because of this new line. So I'm going to disable that for the moment so that I can just update the test expectations and commit the passing environment. And so that's lexical scopes. I guess that's the okay, that's the only error in that one. And for that, I just need to install deps. Oh, I'm not in the actual environment, so that's done. Oh, I forgot to, yeah. I'll need to be careful about that because I've changed how I swap between browsers and the terminal, and I feel like I'm going to make that mistake a few times before I learn. But that's okay. I guess while I'm waiting for that, I'll go ahead and update those changes. Cool, that's that done. So let's go back to our parser. And so the way this is going to work is same as before. We're going to have a catch. And it's going to be an expression. Yeah, and thinking about it, I should probably implement negation before I implement catching. So I'm going to just comment that out for the moment. I'll put it out here. Now, whether I'll turn that into a unary operation might make sense. And I'll call this one bang. Yeah, because I've used that terminology elsewhere. And I guess it's a pretty short way of referring to it. So we need to ignore this time the target directory. So we'll do a quick browser search. using, oh, maybe prune. No. Okay, but it still goes into those directories, which is fine, but so I guess any of these answers would work, really. I suppose I will just go with, let's see. Yeah, I'll just do that because, and I'm overcomplicating it because it only gets executed once when I am actually initializing ENTR. Now, I think the path comes afterward, or maybe not. Let's try that first. Yeah, that seems fine. So let's try that. Cargo is still running in the background. Okay, but it exited quickly enough this time. Cool. So now we need to handle unary operations. And I'll also bump cargo to version 0.2 for the addition, and I'll probably want to add in features as well. And we'll also need some tests for that. Oh, I'm sorry. So, where were we? I think, is that audible? Pernalot kit. So, do I want to add in some documentation? I think I'm alright. At least in the README, but we will want some tests. So we have strings, we have, let's see, we have strings, we have objects, we don't have any. I guess it'll go in operations. Cool. And then the actual implementation of that will go in 331. Hi C-Films, welcome back. So today I'm working on, well, I had started working on a primitive for catching runtime exceptions and errors, but then I realized that this language doesn't have negation yet, so you can't do not Boolean. So I thought that would be pretty important. So I took a quick detour just to implement that. And so I've just been adding on the new syntax for that. And now I'm just about to dive into the implementation of the evaluator part. Thanks for the question. So let's see. Oh, that's in bind. So we want in eval. No, I'm in the wrong file, am I? 331. Oh no, that's just to do with error handling. Oops. Cool, so let's go ahead and do binary operation and replace that with unary operation. And this is just going to have one expression. So it's not going to have, I think, any of those. So in fact, this language in particular won't be for kind of low-level processing. So I think those kind of operations make sense in languages where you're actually dealing with in-memory bytes and things like that, and you want to do fast bit twiddling, I suppose, is what it used to be called anyway. Whereas this language is mainly intended to be an alternative to the likes of Bash. So in that kind of a circumstance, there aren't really going to be operations for dealing with bits and bytes directly. It's going to be more high level, I would say. Thanks for the question. And so we have apply binary operation. So we'll go ahead and duplicate that to unary operation, even though we're basically only going to have one unary operation for the foreseeable future. And in fact, catch, I think, is going to be, even though it's going to be in a way unary operation, I think it'll make sense to handle it in its own branch. But anyway, I think it'll make sense to just copy this anyway. And we can always add to it later as well, in case there are other, I guess, unary operations that I haven't thought of. Oh, thanks for the question. Yes, so it actually already has equals and triple equals, and the equals in this language is for structural equality. So you can see if, say, two arrays or two objects have the same shape in a nested sense. But then the triple equals in this language is for reference equality. So are two objects the exact same value? So if you instantiate two different objects, they're going to be different using reference equality. But then they could be the same using structural equality. So that's going to be so that was the way with the language that I was basing this on, which was Seed. And so I'll be importing those semantics into this language as well. And so the only operation we will have here is, what was it? Not. And so all the rest of those will go. And in fact, there's going to be no default match because that is the only possibility. I wonder, can I do is there a simplification of that? I presume there is, but Clippy will probably tell me about it. In fact, I probably want to undo that removal because I want to do a match on the types here. Yeah, so we have an error here. Whoops, what's happening there, Kit? Come on. Yeah, I I can say with certainty that variables are very tricky to get working. Yeah, I know. It's very fun, isn't it? But yeah, variables were a thing that I had to visit and revisit several times over the course of developing this language in particular, or its predecessor. So even when I thought I had variables working for a long time, I didn't actually. And hey Flappy, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel rather. Whoops, sorry. And let's see, so in this case we're only going to have expression, and that is my water. And okay, and so if this is a bool, then we're going to take some action, but if it's not, then we're going to give invalid op type. So let's see, and we can get rid of int overflow error here for the moment as well. Oops, no, don't pull on that. I'm sorry. Is that okay? Is it okay if you don't rip my jumper? So we have expression here and here. We'll have line column there. Yes, I'm finally using NeoVim. I'd been playing around with it for, well, I've been looking into it for a long time now, and finally have incorporated it into my, I suppose, general development setup. It is quite nice. I still have a bit to do with configuration. That was always the thing that kind of put me off. But yeah, feeling pretty good so far. And so the value that we get here is going to be another bool. And we'll just say that the value that we get back here is the inversion of the Boolean. And so we've a few bits to update now. We'll need to create this new error, and we'll probably have to rename another error. Just for consistency. So where is that coming from? I think it could be in main. No. Would be nice if live grep just defaulted back to, I guess, the regular system grep, but I'll just need to fix it properly. So let's see what our errors are looking like for the moment. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong part of the error. So no variant. I thought I added that. Oh. Because I was thinking ahead. In ASTR, rather in the parser, I also need to update that. So instead of just not, it will be unary operation and the operation itself will be unary up not. Oh, I couldn't find it because I renamed it. I've done something wrong with the errors, but I don't know what exactly. Evaluary op failed. Oh, because I have it in two places. So maybe that helps fix things a little. And then we'll have source of almod 517. And that should basically be it almost. Oh, I don't need an operator location for that, I don't think, because it'll be carried with the expression, but just for the sake of keeping it simple and somewhat uniform, I think I'll just include it anyway. Now, where is my unary operation? There it is. So that expected a tuple maybe I don't need it if I can modify that. No, I'll need to do it like that, I believe. Cool. So that's just because we have additional tokens that we'll be handling. So we're going to add our new token to this list. So it's going to happen after a while. Cool. And actually, I think it already passed the new operations tests. So yeah, we have Boolean operators now. So let's go ahead and add the support, or rather commit the changes that we've just made. Yeah, and that's basically it for our implementation of negation. And so that's our second commit made to this project. And in fact, I need to go ahead and create the branch for that. So let's go ahead and open up the browser. Oh, I'll need to do that on a separate profile because this is just a guest profile. So I'll do that in a few minutes. But in the meantime, this has been like I said, the first episode of the, I guess, somewhat revamping of the writing and programming language stream. Hope that everyone who joined enjoyed it. And thanks for, as always, for all the questions and comments and engaging. And all those kind of things help to just get the channel to a wider audience, to help more people, all the rest of it. So be sure to check out the YouTube channel as well, where all of these streams get uploaded, and you know, throw a few likes and subscribes that way too. And yeah, with that all said, thanks again to everyone who was checking out the stream. And yeah, take care. Have a good one.